and welcome to today's video. Today I'm looking at the 2026 governor elections, and I'm going to go state by state, talk about each governor's race, and I'm going to be using the Kalshi Election Odds latest map, and I'm going to be assigning the state to the respective state by the odds on the map. It'll all make sense as I go through and do it. I previously did a video on this for the Senate map and the House map. Now I'm doing the governor's map. I'm going to work my way west to east. We have a lot to get going with, so we're going to start now. Democrats start out with 6 governor's races. Republicans start out with 8. 36 governor's races are up for grabs in the 2026 midterm election cycle. We're going to start with the state of Oregon. Oregon is currently held by the Democratic governor, Tina Kotek, who won her first term in 2022. She'll be facing off against 3 potential Republicans in Christine Drazan, Ed Deal, state representative, or Chris Dudley, the wealth management executive. Still remaining to see who's going to end up winning that primary. It is decently competitive, with Drazan currently as the leader. The prediction rankings in this race currently have it listed as solid Democrat from 2 out of the 4 rankings. Sabado Crystal Ball has it as likely, and Racel Whitehouse has it as lean, despite the most recent poll from a Republican-affiliated group, which is sponsoring Chris Dudley's campaign, showing it a tied race for Drazan versus Kotek, and Dudley in the lead on that one. According to Kalshi's odds, however, they have the state of Oregon listed at 83% likely to go Democrat, putting it in the likely Democratic category. So what this means is for the governor's state, or the governor's race in Oregon, we're going to put it as a likely Democratic state. Next, we can look at the state of California. California, I've covered on my channel a few times now. It's very fascinating. As for the primary election, there are a ton of candidates that are running in this race, and really it's anyone's guess at this current point in time who the candidates are going to end up being. Right now you have Democrats Xavier Becerra and Tom Steyer leading the pack on the polling. On the Republican side, Steve Hilton and Chad Bianco are the leading Republicans. You also have Democrats Matt Mahan and Katie Porter and Antonio Villaraigosa trying to get into the top 2 as well. The way that California does it is typically the top 2 vote getters on the primary election advance to the general. So it could be 2 Democrats, it could be a Democrat, it could be a Republican, it could be 2 Republicans. Really, we have to wait for the primary to play out before we have a definitive role here. But given how Democratic of a state California usually is, at least 1 Democrat is very likely to advance to the runoff election. And then for the general, solid Democratic rankings across the board. Gavin Newsom is the current governor of the state of California. And on the Kalshi odds, it agrees, 87% chance to go Democratic, likely Democratic in the state of California. So we can put California in the likely Democratic category. Next, we can look at the state of Hawaii. Hawaii, I do believe this is Democratic Governor Josh Green. He's considering a 2026 potential presidential run, I do believe, as well. I'm not sure how much has been talked about, but I think he is considering that. On the Republican side, the only candidate that's filed paperwork is Gary Cordery, a contractor. No surprise here, this race is listed as solid Democratic. The Kalshi odds agree, and they have it 91%, meaning it is in the safe Democratic category. So Hawaii officially goes as safe Democrat, not really too much of a surprise. The state of Alaska, however, I do think is going to be a very competitive governor's race, along with a competitive Senate race that's taking place in that one as well. Alaska's election system is kind of similar to California's, but also a little different. The way it works is the primary election occurs on August 18th as a nonpartisan blanket primary, where the top 4 highest placing candidates advance to a ranked choice general election. If no candidate breaks 50% on the first ballot, ranked choice voting goes into effect, where it gets to 50%, or goes to the final 2 matchups where the winning candidate must break 50%. The incumbent governor, Mike Dunleavy, is term limited and cannot seek a 3rd term. As for the Republican candidates, there are a ton of candidates running, most notably being Nancy Dahlstrom, the lieutenant governor of the state, and Bernadette Wilson. They've been polling both considerably near the top of this field. On the Democratic side, the most notable Democrat running is Tom Begich, the former minority leader of the Alaska Senate, and he's also the uncle of the current representative, Nick Begich, as well. So interesting family dynamic going on there for sure. As for the polling in this race, so far Tom Begich has been the leading vote getter as the really sole Democratic candidate that's getting most of the vote there. Democrat Matt Clayman's getting 5%, and Jonathan Kreese Tompkins getting 5%, but Begich is clearly far and away the leading Democrat. As for the Republicans, pretty evenly split Bernadette Wilson's at 14%, Dave Bronson's at 10%, and then Nancy Dahlstrom, despite being the lieutenant governor, is not polled too high yet, but still a ton of undecided vote. It's either likely or solid Republican from most of the rankings on the slip, despite the one general election poll from the Democratic Lake Research Partners, who sponsors Tom Begich's campaign, showing Begich with a very large lead over the rest of the field at 38%, still 25% undecided. For the Kalshi ratings, they do agree this race is very competitive. They have Alaska as a toss-up. Now, the way toss-ups go on the Kalshi ratings and the way that I'm using it for this video is I'm not just going to leave the race as toss-up. I'm going to go with the actual numbers here, and whether it's a Democrat or Republican, I'm going to put that in the tilt category. So usually tilt would be under 1 point, but for the Kalshi ratings, tilt is going to be toss-up that skews towards one party. It's listed at 57% for the Republicans, so Alaska goes in the tilt Republican category. If that comes up again, you'll see it be used consistently on that as well. But Alaska goes tilt for the Republicans. Next, we're going to look at the governor's race in the state of Idaho. Idaho, there really isn't too much to talk about here. This is the Republican governor, Brad Little, who is running for re-election for a third term. He's expected to win the primary handedly. 4 Democrats are running. And on the general election side of things, it's solid Republican across the board. Kalshi's odds agree, 93% safe for the Republicans. No real surprise here. Idaho goes as safe for the Republicans. Now, one governor's race, that will not be safe, that'll be very competitive, is the governor's race in the state of Nevada. Nevada, this is incumbent Republican Governor Joe Lombardo, who won very closely in 2022. We know his Democratic opponent is going to be Nevada Attorney General Aaron Ford, and this is going to be a very close race. It's listed as sort of around a toss-up to a tilt Republican advantage for Lombardo right now. The polling data currently shows Lombardo leading by roughly about 1.5% in the most recent polling average. So certainly a very, very close race to keep an eye out for. It's also listed in the toss-up category on the Kalshi odds, but in this one, they have the Democrats favored at 54% chance to win, the Republicans at 43% chance to win. So in this one, it's in the toss-up category, but with the Democrats narrowly ahead, the odds go in the Democratic favor of tilt for the Democrats. So see, kind of like Alaska, but flipped. Speaking of another very close governor's race, we have the state of Arizona. This is the Democratic Governor Katie Hobbs, who got elected very, very narrowly in 2022 against Carrie Lake, the Republican. She'll be facing off against U.S. Representative Andy Biggs of the 5th District once that primary is settled. It's currently listed as either a toss-up or a lean Democratic race. On the Democratic side, Katie Hobbs is off to an early lead over Andy Biggs of roughly about 6 points in the polling averages, starting out very strongly. As for the Kalshi odds, they agree with this rating, having her at 72% chance to win, giving her a lean Democratic characterization for the Arizona governor's race. So Arizona starts out as lean for the Democrats. Next, we're going to go to the state of Wyoming. Wyoming, this should not be a typical competitive race. This is the Republican incumbent Governor Mark Gordon, who is term limited. 3 Republicans are running in Brett Behan, Eric Barlow, and Megan Degenfelder. And Megan Degenfelder has the endorsement of President Trump, so likely she will win that primary. On the Democratic side, one candidate, Gabriel Green. Solid Republican rankings across the board. Kalshi has it as safe for the Republicans. Again, no surprise here, Wyoming starts as safe Republican. The state of Colorado probably won't be too competitive at the general election level, but the Democratic governor primary could be interesting. U.S. Senator Michael Bennet and Attorney General Phil Weiser are running to succeed Democratic Governor Jared Polis, who, after his pardon of Tina Peters, is getting his name in the news a lot recently, and among farther left Democratic circles, certainly probably not very good. So this Democratic primary could be very interesting to see how it ultimately all shakes out. On the Republican side, the most notable candidates running are Barbara Kirkmeyer and Scott Bottoms in this race, though again, we'll have to wait and see how it all shakes out. As for the general, solid Democratic rankings across the board, and it is a safe Democratic seat on the Kalshi odds as well. No surprise here, Colorado starts as safe for the Democrats. Next, we can go to the neighboring state of New Mexico to the south. This is Democratic Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham. She is term limited. 2 Democrats are running in Sam Bregman and Deb Haaland. This Democratic primary has to sort itself out, though Deb Haaland is led in the few polls that we have in the race. Mayor of Rio Rancho, Greg Hull, has been seen as the leading Republican for quite some time. It's a likely Democratic race according to most of the predictions. As for the rankings here, it's also listed as likely Democratic, an 89% chance for the Democrats to win. So New Mexico we can put as a likely Democratic state for the Democrats there. Okay, that puts the Democrats 13, Republicans at 11, 26 states left to go. We're going to go to the state of South Dakota, which South Dakota probably won't be too competitive. This is going to be, well, it's actually interesting. The Republican governor, Larry Roden, is running again, but there is a few Republicans running. Larry Roden, Dusty Johnson, John Hanson, Toby Doden, and this primary polling is sort of all over the place, with Dusty Johnson leading in most, if not all, of these polls. On the Democratic side, Dan Ehlers is the declared Democratic candidate. 2 independents running the race as well, but it's solid Republican ratings. The Kalshi odds also have it as a safe Republican win, so South Dakota can go as a safe Republican seat. Next, we can go to the state of Nebraska. Nebraska is an interesting race because at the Senate level is competitive. The Republican governor, Jim Pillen, is running for re-election against Democrat Lynn Waltz. As for the general election, it's listed as solid Republican from most of the rankings, though the only poll came from the Democratic Public Policy Polling, showing it a 5-point race, with the independent or LMN candidate Rick Beard in the race getting 12%. So this has the potential to become interesting, but it looks like the Republicans have a pretty strong chance in this race. It is listed as likely Republican, not safe Republican, so there seems to be a little bit of, not skepticism, but something could happen here in the Nebraska governor's race. So just something to keep an eye out for there. Nonetheless, though, Nebraska goes as likely Republican. Now we can go to the state of Kansas. Kansas is going to be interesting as this is currently held by the Democratic governor, Laura Kelly. So this would be a flip to the Republicans if the Republicans can win. 2 Democrats are notably running in Ethan Corson and Cindy Holschler. Ethan Corson has the endorsement of Laura Kelly and the Lieutenant Governor David Toland. So he is the name to watch out for in terms of the party establishment supporting him. On the Republican side, there are several Republican candidates running in that primary that has to sort itself out, so we'll have to wait and see how that goes. It's currently listed around lean Republican or tilt Republican on the prediction side of things. As for the Kalshi odds for the general election, similar, lean Republican, 65% chance to go red. Kansas starts out in the lean Republican category in this one. Next, we can go to the state of Oklahoma, a state that also will probably not be too competitive. It's typically a very Republican state. The governor, Kevin Stitt, is term limited. There are a lot of Republicans running in this race as well. We can look at Genter Drummond, Charles McCall, Jake Merrick, Mike Mazzei, Chip Keating. Looks like Genter Drummond has a lead in most of these polls, but still a lot of vote to go. We'll have to wait and see how that sorts itself out. On the Democratic side, Cindy Munson, Connie Johnson, Arya Asma are running. That will have to sort itself out as well. Solid Republican rankings for the general is listed as likely Republican just by 1% on the Kalshi odds map. So we're going to put the state as a likely Republican state. Next, we're going to go to the Texas governor's race. A governor's race, I'm not sure how competitive it will be, but it'll certainly get a lot of national attention. Greg Abbott, the Republican governor, is running for another term, and I believe this will be his running for re-election for a 4th term, so one of the longest-serving governors in the history of Texas history, if not the longest. Yeah, he would become the state's longest-serving governor with 16 years as of January 21st, 2031. He'll be facing off against Democratic nominee Gina Hinojosa, and it's listed currently as solid Republican for most of the rankings in this race. The polling data shows Greg Abbott off to an early lead in this race by a pretty sizable amount. The Kalshi ratings don't have it as safe, but they do have it 85%. That is a likely Republican ranking, so Texas starts out as likely Republican, really to be expected in the state of Texas, not being safe, not being lean. Texas, for the governor's race being likely, makes a lot of sense on that one. Next, we can go to the state of Minnesota. Minnesota, this was Democratic Governor Tim Walz. He ultimately dropped out of the race, and now U.S. Senator Amy Klobuchar is running for this race and arguably made it even more of a solid Democratic win. Several Republicans are running, including Mike Lindell, Lisa DeMuth, and Peggy Bennett. But for the general election facing off against Klobuchar, the rankings are split between solid Democrat or likely Democrat, depending on which candidate it ends up being. As for the Kalshi ratings, it's listed at 89%, similar to Texas, right outside of being safe. It goes as likely for the Democrats. Now we can go to the neighboring state of Iowa, where Iowa is a very fascinating state this time around. A governor's race that's not would be too competitive usually, in a state that's pretty reliably red at the presidential level, voting for Trump by 13 points in 2024. But the Democrats, in all respects, have an outstanding candidate in Rob Sand, who seems to be getting a lot of early momentum in this race. He'll likely be facing off against U.S. Representative Randy Feenstra. In the general election, 2 out of the 4 rankings have it lean Republican. Cook Politico has it toss-up, but Race to the White House has it as tilt. And the 3 early polls in this race, 2 of them have been Democratic-affiliated polls. One of them, Echelon Insights, is not a Democratic-affiliated poll. They show Rob Sand leading in all 3 of the polls. So much so that Kalshi Odds seem to agree with this line of thinking, where it's currently listed at 62% to go to the Democrat Rob Sand, and it's currently listed as a lean Democratic race. This would be a very big get for the Democrats if they could win the state of Iowa after its Republican shift towards Donald Trump in the Trump era since 2016. Next, we have the state of Arkansas. Arkansas, however, is a state that will likely not be going to the Democrats and everything is said and done. This is Republican Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders. She'll be facing off against Democrat Frederick Love in a race that's listed as solid Republican in both the Kalshi odds and the prediction odds. No surprise here, Arkansas goes safe for the Republicans. Next, we can take a look at the state of Wisconsin. Wisconsin, always one of the perennial battleground states. It's currently listed, or this is currently Democratic Governor Tony Evers, who's not seeking a 3rd term. The Democratic primary, very competitive between Mandela Barnes, Francesca Hong, Sarah Rodriguez. Anyone's guess who's going to be the candidate as of now. The polling has a ton of undecided voters and is really all over the place. The Republican side, U.S. Representative of the 7th District Tom Tiffany will be the Republican candidate. As for the general election, toss-up across the board from all the rankings. The candidates, based on the early polling, the only candidate Tom Tiffany leads against is Francesca Hong, so that could have some potential implications on this primary. As for the Kalshi odds, though, they're very confident in the Democrats' chances. 79% chance to win puts the race as a likely Democratic race as of now in the state of Wisconsin. While we're here, we're going to go to the state of Illinois as well. This is going to be Democratic Governor J.B. Pritzker, who is running for another term. He'll be facing a rematch of the 2022 governor's race, going up against Republican Darren Bailey. It's listed as solid Democratic across the board for the predictions, and the 1 poll we have from November is solid Democrat as well. And no surprise, the Kalshi odds have it 92%. That is a safe Democratic win in the state of Illinois. Next door to Wisconsin, we have the state of Michigan. Michigan's going to be a very interesting governor's race as well. As Michigan, this is the Democratic Governor Gretchen Whitmer. She is term limited. The Democratic side and the Republican side, the primaries are underway, but we have a pretty good idea. It's going to be Jocelyn Benson as the Democrat, John James the Republican, but independent Mayor of Detroit Mike Duggan running is really making this race more interesting. It's listed as toss-up from most of the rankings, and the polling currently shows Jocelyn Benson leading over John James and Mike Duggan by about 5 points. But Duggan getting nearly 20% of the vote with still 13% undecided is making this race a lot more unpredictable than it probably otherwise would be in the second term of President Trump in the midterm election. As for the Kalshi odds, though, they're cautiously optimistic for the Democratic chances, putting it at 66%, a lean Democratic ranking in the state of Michigan. So not as Democratic as Wisconsin based on these Kalshi odds, but still in the hands of the Democrats. Next, we're going to go to the state of Tennessee, a state that probably is going to vote Republican by a pretty considerable amount. U.S. Senator Marsha Blackburn is running to succeed the Republican Governor Bill Lee. On the Democratic side, 4 Democratic candidates are running. We'll have to see how that ultimately all goes. Jerry Green has led in the 1 poll thus far. The general election, solid Republican across the board, likely going to be a very big Republican win. Tennessee, currently listed by 1% in the likely R rating. No surprise, Tennessee goes for the Republican as likely R. Next, in the state of Alabama, we're also going to see a current U.S. Senator running for this race. As Republican Governor Kay Ivey is term limited, the U.S. Senator Tommy Tuberville is running in this race, and he'll be facing off against a rematch of his own against former Democratic Senator Doug Jones. He's running in this race. For the governor election, though, probably going to be a pretty solid win, solid Republican across the board, except for race to the White House, roughly around a 20-point lead in the 1 poll from November. The Kalshi odds have Alabama 92% as safe for Tommy Tuberville and the Republicans. Alabama goes safe R. Again, not really too much of a surprise there. Next, we're going to go to the state of Florida, which is, based on the polls that have come out in this race, actually looking a little bit more competitive than you may have expected. Incumbent Republican Governor Ron DeSantis is term limited. The Republican candidates running, there are a bunch, but U.S. Representative Byron Donalds is the likely Republican nominee and most likely going to win the race. On the Democratic side, David Jolly, the former Republican representative of the 13th District, seems to be the leading Democratic candidate as of now. Most of the rankings have this race listed as solid Republican, but the polls are suggesting more of a competitive race and even a likely Republican race when everything is said and done. The Kalshi odds seem to reflect this as well, having it as 77% Republican, which would go into the likely Republican rating. So Florida starts out as likely R. Next, we can move to the state of Georgia, a state that's going to be having its primaries happen very soon for these races for governor. It is, I might have clicked on Florida again, excuse me. I wanted to click on Georgia. Here we go. This is Governor Brian Kemp. He is term limited. The Republican primary has to play itself out between Rick Jackson, Burt Jones, and Chris Carr, and Brad Raffensperger. Currently, the polling shows Rick Jackson and Burt Jones as the top two candidates. Burt Jones does have the endorsement of President Trump, so likely we're going to see this head to a runoff election between Jackson and Burt Jones to decide who is the Republican nominee. On the Democratic side, former mayor of Atlanta, Keisha Lance Bottoms, has all but wrapped up the Democratic primary, getting nearly 50% of the vote in a divided field, so she'll likely be the Democratic candidate. As for the general election, a little bit of a split ranking here, toss-up from Cook, Politico, and Sabato, tilt Republican from Inside Elections, tilt Democrat race to the White House. Only one poll to go off of the Echelon Insights poll, but it shows Keisha Lance Bottoms leading all the Republicans in this one. Going to be very close. It's listed as a toss-up on the Kalshi odds map, but at 55%, it does give the Democrats a narrow edge, putting Georgia into the tilt Democratic column. Neighboring South Carolina, this is going to be an open governor's race as well as the current governor, Henry McMaster, is term limited, and this is a very feisty Republican primary underway between Pamela Evette, Lieutenant Governor, Josh Kimbrell, State Senator, Nancy Mace, U.S. Representative, Ralph Norman, U.S. Representative, and Alan Wilson, the Attorney General. And when I mean competitive, look at the polling difference. Across all the averages, Alan Wilson is leading Pamela Evette by 0.1%, with still roughly 30% of the vote undecided or left to go. Nancy Mace and Ralph Norman fighting for third and fourth place right now based on these current polls. It's a very tight race. Can't wait to see this all play out. As for the Democratic side, the leading candidate right now is Jermaine Johnson, a state representative of the 80th District. As for the general, solid Republican rankings for most of the prediction sites. It's currently listed at 88% likely Republican on the Kalshi odds, so South Carolina goes as likely red. Next, we can go to the state of Ohio, which is emerging to be a very competitive governor's race. This is going to be succeeding the Republican governor, Mike DeWine. This primary has already been settled. Republican presidential candidate from 2024, Vivek Ramaswamy, will be taking on Amy Acton, the former Department of Health of the Ohio Department of Health from 2019 to 2020. And this is going to be a very close race. It's currently listed in Vivek Ramaswamy's favor, right around a tilt to lean Republican advantage. He's leading in the polling averages by about 1.7%, so even closer than the Senate race on the other video that I talked about in Ohio. It's even closer here. It's going to be very close in the state of Ohio. As for the prediction sites, it's listed as a toss-up, but actually Amy Acton, according to Kalshi, has a very slight lead in this race, 51% for Acton to win, 47% for Ramaswamy to win, so by the slightest of margins really possible on the Kalshi odds. Ohio is actually in the tilt Democratic category to go for Acton over Ramaswamy in this race. Next, in neighboring Pennsylvania, this is going to be Democratic Governor Josh Shapiro. He'll be facing off against presumptive Republican nominee Stacey Garrity in a race that's not expected to be very close. In between likely and solid Democratic in these rankings, Shapiro's leading by over 20 points in their polling averages. The Kalshi odds reflect this as a safe Democratic ranking for Josh Shapiro in Pennsylvania. In neighboring Maryland as well, probably going to find something very similar. This is going to be the Governor Wes Moore. He's running against the Republican candidates. There are a bunch running, including the nominee of not too long ago, I believe, Dan Cox is a potential candidate, nominee for governor in 2022. But the general election is going to be safe Democratic from all the rankings, and safe Democratic according to the Kalshi odds. Again, no surprise there in the state of Maryland. The state of New York will be interesting, as Kathy Hochul is a name that's very prominent and had a very close race in 2022. 2026, I'm not sure how close it's going to be, as the election environment will make it probably a little bit more difficult for Republicans. She'll be facing off against Bruce Blakeman. President Trump already endorsed him. He's the Nassau County executive. It's listed as either solid Democrat or likely Democrat from all the rankings. Hochul's currently leading by right around that 15-point margin. Right now in the race, it's listed at 88%. That is a likely Democratic lead for Kathy Hochul in the state of New York. Now, as we head into the New England to finish off the final few states that we have here, we're going to look at the state of Connecticut, where just a few days ago, as the time of recording this video, we got the official news of who the candidates are going to be. The Republicans are going to be Ryan Fazio. The Democratic side's either going to be incumbent Governor Ned Lamont or State Representative Josh Elliott, but in all likelihood, the current governor will win that primary. As for the rankings in the general, solid Democratic across the board. One poll from back in August for Republican Aaron Stewart showed it a competitive race, but solid Democratic rankings across the board. Connecticut is listed as solid Democratic, 90%, safe Democratic on this ranking. Connecticut goes as safe blue. Next to the state of Rhode Island, obviously neighboring next to Connecticut, obviously. We can look here. In Rhode Island, this is Democratic Governor Dan McKee. He's facing a Democratic primary challenge from Helena Foulkes in this primary that actually shows Foulkes leading over McKee by quite a considerable amount, about 20 points, with still 45% left to go. The Republican side, 3 Republicans are running, including Robert Raimondo, Elaine Polino, and Aaron Guckian. As for the general election, though, solid Democratic really across the board. Whichever Democrat wins this primary is probably going to end up winning. The odds suggest that as well. 88% chance for the Democrats to win. That puts Rhode Island as a likely Democratic state. Next, we can move to the state of Massachusetts. Massachusetts, this is Democratic Governor Maura Healey. She was first elected in 2022. She'll be the Democratic candidate once again. On the Republican side, 2 Republicans are left in this race, and Michael Minogue and Brian Shortsleeve. That primary has to still work its way out after the GOP convention eliminated one of the candidates, but Michael Minogue seems to be the odds-on favorite to ultimately be the Republican nominee. As for the general election, though, probably won't matter too much. Solid Democratic rankings across the board between Maura Healey and Mike Minogue, and the Kalshi odds reflect this as well, with a 91% chance for the Democrats to win. We'll put Massachusetts in the safe Democratic category. We can now look at neighboring Vermont. Vermont, this is an interesting state. It's one of the most Democratic states in the country, but Republican Governor Phil Scott, very liberal Republican, is the current governor. He has not announced if he's running again or not, though several notable Democrats in Vermont have not entered this race as of yet. The Attorney General is running for re-election. The Vermont State Treasurer has expressed interest, but has not officially jumped in the race yet. After the general, it's currently solid Republican or likely Republican, depending on what Phil Scott decides to do. As for the Kalshi odds, it's listed as likely Republican, again banking probably on Phil Scott entering this race. So it goes as likely Republican. If Scott drops out or decides not to run for re-election, this race automatically becomes like a solid Democratic flip opportunity. Next, we have 2 governor's races left to go. We have the state of New Hampshire, where Republican Governor Kelly Ayotte won her first term in 2024. New Hampshire, like Vermont, is one of 2 states that does its governor's elections every 2 years instead of every 4. She'll be facing off against the runner-up on the Democratic side in 2024 in the Democratic primary in Cindy Warmington. As for the general election, it bounces between being a likely Republican state or a solid Republican state for most of the rankings. The most recent polling shows Ayotte versus Warmington being roughly around a likely Republican margin. In terms of the Kalshi odds, though, at 74%, it actually falls just beneath that likely and lean threshold, so it actually starts out as a lean Republican lead in the New Hampshire governor's race. So New Hampshire goes lean Republican. The last state on the list, we have the state of Maine. Its governor's race, this is Democrat Governor Janet Mills. She is term limited. We have a competitive Democratic primary underway here. We have Shenna Bellows, Troy Jackson, Angus King III, the son of the senator, Hannah Pingree, and Nirav Shah. The current polling data, even though there's still a lot of undecided vote left to go, shows Nirav Shah leading among the Democratic candidates in most of these polls. On the Republican side, there are also a lot of Republican candidates running in this one as well, including a member of the Bush family, Jonathan Bush, Robert Charles, David Jones, Garrett Mason, several Republicans in this one. The early polling thus far from the April poll, McLaughlin and Associates, seems that Robert Charles is the leading Republican candidate as of right now. As for the general election, likely Democratic from 2 out of the 4 rankings, lean Democratic from Saddle Crystal Ball, tilt Democrat race to White House. The Kalshi odds currently has it at 84%. That would put Maine in the likely Democratic category. So based on the current rankings that Kalshi currently has for the 2026 governor's map, it shows the Democrats having a very, very good night, getting 27 governor's races, Republicans getting 23. The Democrats have very notable flips in the states of Nevada, Iowa, Ohio, and the state of Georgia. 4 states that Donald Trump won in 2024, and a few of them he won very handily in 2024. The Democrats also hold on to some of their own governor's races in places like Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, that and even potentially maybe Maine, but less so than the other ones that Republicans heading into this cycle were likely targeting. So based on the Kalshi odds, Democrats are in a very strong position for the governor's races in 2026. I'm interested to hear what your thoughts are, though. Leave your thoughts in the comment section down below, what you think of this map and these Kalshi polling numbers. For now, thank you so much for watching. Please remember to hit like and subscribe, and hope to see you in a future video.